Dr. Hilary Claire, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. I'm excited to have you because we've connected for a few months now because of a part of the membership that we're part of. And it's funny, I know when I connected with you and this other member, our practices just aligned so fast. So there's just some people that you're like, yeah, they get it. And you're one of those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that we are very lucky to find each other in that group.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm so happy to have you on because it's your practice really aligns with my practice. So before we go into that, I guess I'll just read your bio out for those who don't know you. So Dr. Hilary Claire is a clinical psychologist with a specialization in nutrition and environmental medicine. She's a yoga teacher and a mum of two energetic little boys. Yep. Feel you on that one, boys. And she's obsessed with getting outside into nature, going for barefoot walks, listening to podcasts, and just creating a healthier planet. So she supports mums in creating healthier and happier lives for their little ones and themselves. And interestingly, you're not sure of your love language just yet.
I know I've heard so much about love languages. I've listened to podcasts on them and I've read bits about them, but I've never actually done the quiz myself. But I think I probably would be a combo of, was it time together?
Mm-hmm.
Just more like quantity of, well, I don't even know quality, but maybe just like quantity.
Yes.
Around people. And touch, but yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I definitely have to get on that at some point and do it. What's yours?
Mine, so my first is words of affirmation. So just give me all the compliments and I'm good. And then my second is physical touch too. So I just love like sitting next to each other or like a hand on the shoulder or just like a physical gesture when you walk past me. I'm very big on that, but that's what my family of origin is like too. You know, we tell each other we love each other like 20 times a day, so, and I feel so bad for my poor husband who come from a family who maybe told each other they love each other like once a year. So interesting. And I think that's why sometimes for some couples, not all, but for some couples it's just a good framework because you understand, okay, these are what each other's needs are. So tell me a little bit more about who you are. I know I read your bio, but I'd love for you to just expand on that and what your business is as well.
Okay, well, so I'm originally from Canada, and that's where I grew up, and I came over to Australia about 11 years ago now, and I did my PhD here in clinical psychology. And we moved around a bunch of places, but now we're on the mid-north coast in New South Wales, a beautiful hot area at this moment. So I'm a clinical psychologist. I did my yoga teacher training about, 10 years ago now. I've always had a passion for like health and environment and things like that. But then when I became a mother, all those passions and interests really amplified. And when my first son was born, so he is nearly 4, I got completely obsessed with what I can do as a mother and a psychologist to create the healthiest environment, like a holistic environment for him to grow up in. So he's healthy and happy and doesn't have any of the mental health or brain dysfunction issues that are so common for kids nowadays. So I got totally wrapped up in that world and did a bunch more studying in environmental and nutritional medicine, and I continue to take more courses on that. I just am obsessed. Talk to my husband, poor guy, who's has to hear about this study and that study. But also by becoming a mom, I got pretty burnt out myself. I thought, I'm a psychologist. I work with parents. I run courses helping parents be better parents. And then I became one, and it was really harder than I thought. I think it was just so unrelenting, and I didn't have any family support. We're living in a new town that we didn't I only had friends that were also had newborn babies, and it was just quite a struggle. My husband was studying and working a lot, so he actually wrote his final medical like exam to be a GP like a week after my son turned 1. So the whole first year I felt like a single mom. Even though he was so supportive, I was still I was with him all the time, and I just burnt myself out. I put him as my number one focus over everything. I didn't get the support I needed, and even I was just literally depleted, and it was exhausting. So between that and being a psych, I just my work kind of shifted away from working with like adolescents and adults with anxiety and depression, and I really focus more now on working with mothers. So working with mothers to help themselves thrive in motherhood and actually enjoy it and be present and not burn out and not be selfless in that process. And also I work with mothers not only for their own benefit, but also to help support them to create that optimal environment for their kids to thrive. So yeah, that's pretty well what I do.
Yeah. And it's funny, one of the things I was just like, yes, sister, when I was listening to you is so before I had my son, I was actually working similar. So I was working in the child safety system. So just with families who were at risk of, they were just either being investigated or they already had children removed, and I was working with foster carers and kinship carers. And so I was teaching parenting as well. I was, talking about routines and boundaries and this and that, with highly dysregulated children. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I know my stuff with dysregulated children, and then you become a parent and you just go, wow. And it's one thing to work with children, like, okay, great, give me a 5-year-old any day, but I was having a newborn. Like, I think that's the shift is that, and you would know this as well, is that sometimes there are parents who are great parents to teenagers, but they really struggle in the newborn or toddler phase. Or again, they struggle with newborns and toddlers, but if they're with a 7-year-old, they're killing it. So as professionals, I think we have a double expectation sometimes too on that as well. So I definitely relate to that. And so I guess moving into, redefine. So that's the second R of our 4Q podcast, is this redefine. So redefine is really about, what's a defining moment or where you had a new perspective or a meaning change for you. And maybe that was a hard moment in life. I'd just love to hear, how you've gotten to this path that you're on now, like if there was a defining moment for you.
I think it was a bit insidious that this prioritizing of everybody outside of myself happened. And it was too far into motherhood that I'm embarrassed to say that I realized that I became just so depleted and exhausted, and I became that burnt out mom that I vowed I'd never be. But I guess probably one of the most defining moments would have been when my first son was 2 and I had a 5-month-old, and my dad actually passed away, and it was all piling up at that point. But everything, it was just one of those moments where my back went out, I had a disc that was compressed, and so I was limping for months. And then my father died, and I did some blood work, and I had a thyroid issue from pretty well pregnancy and all the stress of that. And just my health was crashing, I was crashing, my life was crashing. So at that moment, things were pretty hard, to say the least. But that was also the moment that just made me realize, I have to make a change. What am I doing? I'm not being the playful, happy, calm mom that I want to be, and I plan to be, and I think about being, and I read books on being, and I wasn't doing that. And it came down to, I was putting myself way, way down on my own priority list. And I was focused so much on everybody else, keeping my house clean, being like the super eco mom that makes everything herself and does the cloth nappies and, puts other people first. And it was just too much. So that was probably one of the lowest moments for me. But there was a lot of like dips along the way.
Yeah. And I think, I think there'd be a lot of listeners relating to those sorts of moments. And, I think one of the things that you and I have spoken about before is, if you look at, which you would have in your studies as well, like our evolution of human beings, we used to live in tribes. And so all of the things you're going through, like the grief of your dad and the stress of raising kids, that would all be shared. We would be in a tribe. So if you just needed a moment, you could go to another mum or an auntie or a cousin and say, could you just take the kids and go play? Because I can't. Or, you wouldn't be doing the cleaning your own. There'd be a tribe around you doing the cleaning. And so your experience, I've experienced that. It's so common, yet it never used to be, and it's really sad. So I think that the work that you're doing and being able to reflect on, hey, I've gone through this, I need to create a community around this, I think that work is just going to be so important. So so I guess from that, what do you think key elements from that defining moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to change, or like I need to, what resilient things do you think you got from that too, where you're like, actually I'm going to move forward with this, so rather than letting it define me, I'm actually going to do something about this?
There was a lot of things, but probably the first one was that awareness of this is the situation, and I've partly created this. Like, yes, there's all those external issues, but I didn't ask for the support ahead of time. I tried to do it all myself. I had all these beliefs that were not even my own, but I'd taken on board unconsciously that I had to do it all myself. And just all these unhelpful beliefs about what a good mom does. And I had to let those go. So there was a lot of like that awareness of what was keeping me stuck. So that those unhelpful beliefs, that lack of support, that lack of connection with others and that community, like you say. So yeah, awareness was number one. And then it was about clarifying what I did want, because that life wasn't what I wanted. Like, I loved my kids, I had great moments with them, but it was also just unrelenting and exhausting and burning me out. So I had to really clarify like what I did want. And then I tried working from that place of, okay, well, if that's what I want, what would that version of me do in this moment? Because this burnt out version of me isn't being very helpful right now. So what would that future, like more vibrant version of me do? And kept checking in with her over and over in every situation, every decision I made, just saying like, what would she do in this situation? Would she, lie on the couch and cry, or would she call a friend? Those sort of things. So having that clarity and prioritizing myself, prioritizing my own needs, my own well-being, my health. So I started seeing a naturopath for the thyroid issues that I was having. I started going to an osteopath and a physio for my back. I started going to yoga classes. Like, I'm a yoga teacher, but I let that all slide because everything just became all too hard, or so I believed. To take care of my body and mind, I went to yoga several times a week, and it was just all about prioritizing what I needed and not putting, there would be moments where you have to put others before you, but kind of just coming back to that reminder of, if I'm not taking care of myself, I actually can't be there for my kids. I'm not going to be present. I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be patient with them. So really like setting that foundation with that prioritizing and that taking care of myself in all respects. And then also building those connections and those supports. So getting somebody to help me clean my house. So I didn't do it myself. And being proud of that and owning that and telling people about it. And that was hard. It was hard to tell friends because I was like, what are they going to think of me? But, we should embrace this, that we should, I don't want to be normalizing that moms should do it all themselves and become martyrs. It's not to anybody's benefit, I don't think. So I wanted to be part of, shifting that. And that was really liberating and empowering. And yeah, just getting the supports I can. I'm getting my kids into family daycare a few days a week, and getting clear on my needs, and like being very clear with myself on them, and then articulating those particularly to my husband in like a helpful way.
Yeah.
And getting him to understand. He was super supportive, but I didn't know what I needed. I was totally lost in that. So I needed to reconnect with those things and let him know, and yeah, get the help he needed from multiple people.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, taking responsibility of my life, getting that clarity of what I wanted, prioritizing myself and my health, and then getting those supports that I needed. Those would be some of the big things that I did starting at that time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, and yeah, I'm all for looking at life and then figuring out, okay, what areas do I need to invest more in, and then what do I need to outsource? And I honestly think cleaning is one of the best things any mum, if she has the ability to find the finances to outsource. There's cleaners who can clean for as little as $25 to $30 an hour. Even if it's 2 hours, what they can do in 2 hours would probably take us 4 hours or 5 hours around a kid, compared to if you took the kid to 2 hours for a park, and then you come home and they've done the floors, or they've done the kitchen, or they've done the laundry. I think it's huge. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that. And in terms of, I guess, redesign, which I know that you've touched on just now with your yoga and things as well, is around and you sorting your back out, because the body keeps score. We all know that. So what did you do to redesign after this hard moment? Because that's the third R as well. So like, what tools did you use to redesign your life better, do you think?
Well, like similar to some of the things that I said, like one of them was taking that just full responsibility and recognizing that like I'm shaping my own life and I have control over that. So reminding myself of that, like several moments in the day, reminding myself that I have the choice here to move in what direction I want my life to move in. And that's a huge tool that I still use lots of the time. And sometimes I don't choose the most helpful path, but I know that I'm choosing the less helpful path in that moment, and even that helps. And more of the time, when you're aware of the decisions that you make, you're more intentional with them, you're more likely going to make more helpful choices. So I am, making better choices. Nature is one of my, therapies, is getting out in nature. And I make sure that I get out there multiple times a week, probably almost every day I go for a walk, and by the beach, or like on the grass, and just doing those things. And it's not that I necessarily right before going, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do this. But I come back to like, what's the most helpful decision here for me? Like, am I going to be a better mom when my kids come home if I do this and I go for the walk, or if I stay home and scroll on my phone? So I just come back to like that skill of just making intentional choices and taking that full responsibility for the choices that I make and the life that I'm creating. Has been incredibly empowering. And that's something I can just use in every moment in my life. So it's very accessible. And yeah, getting really clear on like what my values are and what kind of mother and person I want to be in the world is also something that's been like super helpful. And that's something I've done for years as a psychologist, but becoming a mom, your values kind of change. And I hadn't reassessed what mine were. So one of mine was adventure. It was really high up there, and we were traveling and doing all these things. And I continued to live my life like that as a mother, but it didn't really serve me well. And I realized a few years in that was actually making me more tired and just leading me down a path I didn't want at this moment. You know, maybe in 5 years it'll be higher up on my list again, but right now it's not. So reassessing what my values were, clarifying those, and trying to make my decisions align with those, and try to take action aligned with those. So right now, you know, appreciation, connection, what are some, I wrote a couple down, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, even that clarity and health, like those are all ones that are like so key to me right now. And so trying to make my decisions from that place is really helpful. And just reminding myself, you know, every day or every couple of days, like what kind of person I want to be and what those values are, so I can take those into every situation. So those would be two of the kind of skills or strategies that I use like all the time. But there's so many, you know, there's putting the support in place. There's like letting go of those unhelpful limiting beliefs that I've taken on board from my childhood or from society that are not helpful, that are just holding me down. So noticing what they are, thinking about like, where did these come from? And do I want to keep this? And if I don't, you know, it's going to keep coming back into my mind in different situations, but noticing it and not letting it guide my choices and my actions, like that's a really helpful thing that I also do, you know, most days. You know, these beliefs come up, and if you're not aware of them, you just take action, align with them, and you let them shape your life. But when you do notice them, you're like, oh, is that actually what I want to believe? No, like that's not helpful for me. So I'm going to just say thank you, but no thank you. And do something that's a bit more helpful for me. Like, like get a cleaner, you know? Good moms can have cleaners, and they can be great moms. You know, we don't have to do it all, but you know, the belief that you have to do it all, that wasn't helpful.
No. And so, and I know off air, I think that the framework that you said that we spoke about really well was just around clarity, nourish, and let go. You know, I think that really summarizes what you're saying. And that's why it's a big part of what we do, our courses and our framework is you've got to start with reflect. We always start with reflect because you need to know, that conditioning of like who you are and what are my values, and also, you know, what are some limiting beliefs, and especially as a parent and in that sphere of either becoming a parent or being a parent, you need to start getting clarity about, okay, what things have I inherited from my own parents, good and bad? And perhaps that could have been, I saw my mum do everything on her own. So that, you know, you subconsciously get that in your brain and you actually go, actually, there's other ways of doing this, you know? So I think you've hit the nail on the head right there about like just taking the time to do that. You know, I think in the busyness of life, we get very caught up in just on that wheel, and we don't have the space to reflect. So I think you're doing exactly what you're preaching, which is just making sure you have that space to actually figure out what's working and what's not, which I think is just so important. So I guess finally, like moving on to the realign, like what gives you joy now and gives you happiness in life and makes you successful? So, you know, I kind of want to know, like, what do you do to stay on track so that you are, you know, calm, clear, and content now?
Like a lot of the things that I use to help me kind of get out of the more harder moments, I'm continuing to use. But yeah, it's about having that real clarity and then bringing that into my life. Like I try to wake up a few minutes before the kids and just kind of check in with myself, have a cup of tea, maybe do a meditation for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then that just like taking care of myself for even 5 or 10 minutes before they wake up just gives me that space to be able to show up better. So bringing that prioritizing of myself, my well-being, and my own needs into every aspect of my day really helps me to stay happy and present and appreciative and be the person that I want to show up as. What else am I doing? I guess I'm taking care of my health holistically. Like that's that Nourish piece. So I am prioritizing my sleep. You know, I go to bed at like, some days I'm in bed by 8 o'clock. You know, I go to bed with the kids often, and really prioritizing that and getting out in nature is such a key part of holistic health to me. I'm super passionate about eating incredible food, like organic, and just not eating fried foods and different things like that. Like, so taking care of my health in that way. Even considering what products that I'm using in my home or on my body. So really using those products that are, made naturally and low tox, like that helps me take care of myself because it's something I'm interested in, but it's also not putting an extra burden on my body or mind.
Yeah.
And then practicing things that keep me calm and present, like meditation and mindfulness, self-hypnosis and gratitude, and even incorporating play into my day. Like how can I be creative and how can I bring more play to the situation are questions that I regularly ask myself, because sometimes you can get so bogged down in the go, the busyness, and just surviving that you kind of forget about that. So that's something I'm really focusing on that keeps me happy and keeps me connected and present and having fun in life with my kids. Yeah. So those would be some of the big things that I really bring into like my day-to-day life. Oh, and exercise. I forgot that. Like I'm still doing yoga a lot. I'm still going for walks often, Pilates. So just really like taking care, and using that nurture, that nourish piece of taking care of myself. And that just flows on into creating a lot more ease and happiness in the rest of my life.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, I know we spoke about that framework of clarity, nourish, and let go. What if for our listeners who are listening to this, what actionable steps can they do in their life so they can bring that framework of clarity, nourish, and let go? So they have a more grounded and calm life. What would you say to them?
I think you can start with any piece. Like you could start with noticing what you need to let go of, whether that's, beliefs or expectations that you put on yourself, or, past experiences that you have to forgive. Like there's lots of things that we can let go of. But, and with Nourish, like I was saying, like, you can take care of yourself in all these holistic ways. So start wherever you want. But I personally think that the easiest place to start is with that clarity piece. So really getting clear on like where it is that you want to be, how you want to be in the world, what kind of life you want, what kind of mom you want to be if you're a mother, what kind of dad you want to be if you're a dad. Get really clear on that. And then, so just, take a few minutes to just sit down and think about that and just imagine for 5 minutes, like what you want your life to be like on a day-to-day basis. And just think of it in as much detail as you can and really clarify that. And when you do, you have that to come back to. So you're not just going through your world being like, jumping from this to that. You have a focus that you can keep coming back to. And that can change over time. But if you start there, and then from that, you connect with, okay, well, so I kind of have a sense of what I want my life to be like. What kind of person do I want to be in that? And then that's that values piece. And then if you have those two things, it makes a lot of your decisions a lot easier, because you can think, okay, well, is this in line with that life that I want and that person I want to be? Yes or no? And that can flow on into everything that you do. So I think that's such a key starting point, to just spend a few minutes. Like it doesn't even take that long to just consider, okay, what do I want my life to be like? And then when you're thinking about the values piece, what kind of person do I want to be like? Just imagine, if your kids are little, when they're older, how do you want them to describe you as a person? You know, what kind of qualities would you like them to say about you? Or what do you want your coworkers or your partner to say about you? How do you want them to describe you? Those are some simple questions to get a sense of what your core values are. So just starting from there and then bringing that into your choices that you make, and have that, you can even write it down in your phone or on a piece of paper and just remind yourself throughout the day until it becomes a habit that you check in with those. Yeah, I find that that's a really good starting point.
Yeah, yeah. And see, this is why, I mentioned at the start that our frameworks are just so aligned because, values, as you know, just such a big part of my practice too. And you're exactly right. It's just whatever stage you're at, whether you're a parent, you're in your relationships, you're, single, and you're just going, in your workplace, like having those values are just the grounding thing of like, if I need to make a decision about this person or this relationship or this job or whatever it is, it comes back to that always. So you're exactly right. And so, yeah, that's why I'm so happy that we've connected too, because I think our practices just align so much. So you have just given so many gems of wisdom and advice. I've just loved what you've shared with us today. So where can people find you if they want to connect with you and see what else you're doing?
My website is hilaryclaire.com, and the same on Facebook and Instagram. It's just Dr. Hilary Claire. And I do have a book series on this clarity, nourish, and let go for moms coming out in the new year. So
exciting stuff.
Yeah. So clarity will be released first, so people can get that foundation and then progress from there. So if people do want to read more about that or hear more about that, they can come to my website and find out more.
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I know all the mums out there or, women out there listening to this who have ever felt a little burnt out and just need to realign themselves, I think they're going to get a lot out of this conversation. So thank you so much. And I cannot wait for the book to come out myself. I'm keen to get some gems of wisdom there. And we'll be following you on social, and I guess we'll talk to you next time.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Hilary. Bye.
Bye.